Shalom, Kol Halayim Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakal All praises be to the Most High, Yahweh, in the name of His Son and our Lord and Savior, Yahushai. Much respect and honor to the brothers that are doing the work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and freedom to do so, and pushing this gospel throughout the four corners of the earth. Salutations to the hopeful elect that are scattered abroad, and double honors and respect to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. Coming back at you with another lesson entitled, Let the Weak Say, I Am Strong. For these other nations around the world are beginning to strengthen themselves militarily, economically, and are standing up boldly against the daughter of Babylon that have ruled the nations in anger, that have persecuted the other nations through colonization, military first policy, dropping bombs on other nations, and imposing economic sanctions. Excuse me. We're going to let this video play. And this video is by CCTV. CCTV, and this is a Chinese politician speaking. Without further ado, let's continue. You got to read the subscripts, and the title of this, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and the European Union will pay for the price of their stupidity and arrogance, says the foreign minister spokesperson for China. So they're basically attacking the beast. The European Union, America, and Canada is a part of that coalition with North America. So they're attacking the beast. Let's continue.
40年来，新疆维吾尔族的人口从550万增长到了1280万，人均寿命从30岁提高到了72岁。包括维吾尔族在内的新疆各族民众依法享有中国宪法和法律赋予的各项权利。中国新疆地区各族人民享有稳定、安全、发展、进步，这是最为成功的人权故事之一。 但是，美英加欧盟的一些政客显然不愿意承认这一事实，他们对一些反华政客和所谓学者恶意捏造所谓证据如获至宝，全然无视那些拼凑的所谓事实，完全基于虚假的所谓内部文件、受害人陈述和来源不明的信息，甚至对中国官方文件和数据断章取义和歪曲篡改。 这些只能证明，他们关心的根本不是什么人权，在乎的根本不是什么真相。他们的所作所为是对中国人民名誉和尊严的诋毁和冒犯，是对中国内政的公然干涉，是对中国主权和安全利益的严重侵犯。必须要指出，这几个国家自封人权判官，充当人权教师爷。 但是自身在人权问题上劣迹斑斑，他们没有任何资格指责中国，甚至将自己犯过的罪、做过的恶强加给中国。面对疫情，这几个最发达的国家漠视民众的生命权和健康权，任由数以万计的人民死去，奉行疫苗民主主义。 大量囤积远远超过他们人口需要的新冠疫苗，导致发展中国家无苗可供。我们不禁要问：人之不存，权将焉附？美西方口口声声保护人权，他们到底保的是什么人，护的是什么权？ 他们如何体现对人权的尊重和保护？他们难道不应该感到羞耻吗？外国列强架起几门大炮就能打开中国大门的时代已经一去不复返了。几个所谓的学者和媒体同官方勾结，就能肆无忌惮地抹黑攻击中国而不受任何惩罚的日子也一去不复返了。奉劝他们不要低估中国人民捍卫国家利益与民族尊严的坚定意志，来而不往非礼也。他们终将为他们的愚蠢和傲慢付出代价。
See, so she's saying they will pay the price for their arrogance and stupidity. Let's get a scripture on that. So the title of this lesson is Let the Weak Say, I Am Strong. So who is arrogant the Bible is talking about? Let's go to Obadiah. So this is talking about the proud, or most proud, according to the scriptures. Arrogant means proud, haughty. We're going to get it. The book of Obadiah, verse 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? So this is talking about Esau, Edom, and his coalition, European Union, and NATO. And we know that Canada is a part of the North American Alliance. Verse 4. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest amongst the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. So she said that they're arrogant and proud and stupid. Let's go here to Habakkuk. She said that they should be ashamed. So we'll start there. Habakkuk 2, verse 16. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. These other nations are beginning to rise up against the beasts that have terrorized the earth. European Union, NATO, America. So it's talking about the most proud, which is Esau, followed by his allies. Habakkuk chapter 2. Let's start off the key point. I'm not going to make this long. Let's go to verse 4. The book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Go into that term, lifted up. Well, that's why we went to Obadiah. It's talking about the most proud that exalts himself as the eagle. America followed by its European allies. Let's go into that term, lifted up. Comes from the Hebrew.
Strong's H 6075. Aphel.
Well, this is interesting. To swell, to be lifted up. See, it's like when somebody is approaching you and you ask them like, why are you getting all swole or swelling up? To swell, to be swelled. to be elated or lifted up. So what's associated with being lifted up on high, haughty. Let's go back. We know through the Spirit it's talking about the most proud, Esau. Let's go back to that. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarge his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gather unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Hence, United Nations, following the European Union, NATO, with America at the top. Heaping unto him all nations. Well, these nations are beginning to recognize white supremacy or Edomite dominance, according to the scriptures. Verse 6, the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Let's go into that word clay. Clay comes from the Hebrew
Strong's H 5671. Avteet.
Avteet, weight or heavy debt. If I kill your wife, I'm indebted to you. If I steal your land or your cattle, your gold and silver, I am indebted to you. If I rape your wife or your children and steal your land, gold, and silver, I am indebted to you. Straightforward. So they're heaping up debt by doing misdeeds and stealing and killing. So this is talking about Esau and his coalition. Let's go back to verse, verse 6. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be booties unto them? All these nations are beginning to turn on the daughter of Babylon and its allies, that beast. And they remember history, the Boxer Rebellion, the drug market, putting opioids over in China, taking opioids from Afghanistan. So these nations see a historical pattern of Esau Edom that's committing great treacherous acts throughout the earth. He who ruled the earth in, let's get that. Let's go here first. Habakkuk 2, verse 8. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. See, all the bloodshed, rape, robbery, and murder. Well, these nations are getting roused up. Why? because the Spirit of the Lord is on the earth through the Israelites, starting with Judah. Verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, and of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and have sinned against thy soul. So this is talking about the last ruling kingdom of the Gentiles, which is Edom. Let's go to Isaiah. I think it's 33. So they have spoiled many nations. What is that? Robbed and imposed economic sanctions. That's economic warfare, starving the other nations out, cutting off their trade and ability to be self-sustaining. See, judgment is coming. The book of Isaiah, chapter 33, verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. And thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. So we're seeing a shift in the earth today, a transitioning into a new age. And it's going to start with birth pains that the earth is going to go through to usher in a change in an eon. Let's read it again. Isaiah 33, verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. So they are ruling the nations in anger and persecuting not only Israel, but the other nations around the world. And people are catching on to who is the puppet master behind the curtain, starting with the global elites. Isaiah 14, verse 4. That thou should take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how have the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. They're going to be singing, ding dong, the witch is dead, the wicked witch of the west, which is the daughter of Babylon. Well, the Most High is mustering a host of the battle. He's preparing the heathen and Gentile nations for war. So how can you say he wants to save the heathen and Gentile nations? He is preparing them for war. Let's look up some pictures here. This is a map of the nuclear warheads around the world. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about semantics and language. John, on the island of Patmos, did not use the same language or vocabulary that we use today. He used ancient terminology to try to describe a futuristic, modern battlefield. starting with World War I and leading up to the present. So you got to keep that in mind. He's not going to know the difference between a rocket, a projectile, a missile. Let's get it. Most High is mustering the hosts of the battle. America's 7,500 nuclear warheads. Great Britain, 225. France, 300. Israel, up to 200. Pakistan, over 100. India, over 100. China, 250. North Korea, over 10. And Russia, almost 9,000. Now, this is open source. So keep in mind, no country is going to show their full deck of cards that they're playing with. So they're not going to show you everything that they have. Keep that in mind. See, you can see each country, for some reason it's not showing Iran. Over 70,000 nuclear warheads have been built since 1945. So the Spirit of the Lord is preparing war in the mind of the heathen and Gentile nations. Hiroshima, the first city in history to be the target of an American nuclear weapon, dropped an atomic bomb April 6, 1945. Nagasaki, the second and to date last city in the world to experience a nuclear attack. The bomb was dropped August 9, 1945, instantly killing 40,000 people. So the Spirit of the Lord is stirring up war. A little note at the bottom says, deployed warheads placed on missiles or located on bases with operational forces. All estimates are as of April 2014. So this is old data. So the Spirit of the Lord is preparing war. Well, this is what I was getting at. John on the island of Patmos is seeing projectiles, primarily intercontinental ballistic missiles, and other smaller projectiles. So we got to be open-minded. So projectiles come in all types of shapes, forms, and sizes. See? So he doesn't speak the language we speak today. And he was using ancient terminology to try to describe as best he can a futuristic modern battlefield. So these projectiles are primarily the intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's why I took you here first. But at the same time, it also includes other munitions, smaller projectiles. What is a bullet? A bullet is a miniature missile, a baby missile, for lack of better words. But primarily, the intercontinental ballistic missiles are going to bring in this destruction. But it's going to be several hundreds of thousands or millions of projectiles. Projectiles that's going to be fired. We got to keep an open mind on that. See, these go into a naval ship. Now, artillery use projectiles that look identical to these. Artillery rounds. These are 20 millimeter rounds. or counter rocket rounds. See? These bullets look like what? Miniature missiles. These are bullets being fired, smaller projectiles. See, look at that. Bullets. They look like serpents or fiery flying serpents. So these are just smaller projectiles. But the bulk of the destruction is going to be the ICBM missiles, nuclear missiles. Okay? See that? That's a bullet, a small projectile. Let's go ahead and close out. So the Spirit of the Lord is stirring up warfare in the minds of the heathen and Gentile nations. So millions of these projectiles, starting with the intercontinental ballistic missiles, are going to be fired. Let's go to Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. So that's what we're seeing. Like the Americans pulling out of the nuclear non-proliferation treaty, pulling out of the nuclear arms treaty. All of this is a buildup through gradualism towards Armageddon or the Third World War. Armageddon or Armageddon, mountain of truth. Let's read it again. Joel 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. These spears, weapons of war, transitioning over into a warfare priority. Manufacturing war goods, nuclear missiles, ammunition, artillery rounds, bullets, projectiles. Let's keep going. Joel 3, verse 11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither calls the mighty ones to come down, O Lord. These mighty ones are going to be the intercontinental ballistic missiles. So that those mighty ones, let's get that. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah 13, verse 3. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. So the sanctified ones, prophets, apostles, elders, teachers. The mighty ones are these intercontinental ballistic missiles. But that's not all that's going to be fired. We got to keep that in mind. That's going to be the primary weapon of mass destruction or weapon of his indignation. We got to be mindful of that. Let's keep going. But the primary weapon system is going to be nuclear missiles or ICBMs. Verse 3. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle. See, these mountains are governments of the heathen and Gentile nations. The kingdoms are being assembled
for Armageddon, Armageddon, mountain of troops, or the Third World War. See, watch this, these are the main primary weapon system of the Most High. His arrows, Isaiah 13, verse 5. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. See that? The weapons of his indignation are primarily intercontinental ballistic missiles. Let's go to Isaiah 54. Excuse me. I'm C now. Excuse me. Isaiah 54, verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy. So the Most High's primary weapon system are arrows or intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear warheads. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. So what is that instrument for his work? He calls them arrows. Let's go to Psalms. Instrument of the Lord's work are intercontinental ballistic missiles or arrows. Right here, Psalm 7, verse 12. If he turn not, he will whet his sword. He have bent his bow and made it ready. He have also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordained his arrows against the persecutors. See? So these are nuclear missiles, instruments of indignation, or instruments of death, weapons of mass destruction. Let's read it again. Psalms 7, verse 13. He have also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordained his arrows against the persecutors. Verse 12 again. If he turn not, he will whet his sword, and he have bent his bow and made it ready. So that bow represents a launch platform or a launch system. Every projectile or missile has a launch platform or a missile silo or a mechanism by which to trigger its explosion or firing it. Firing mechanisms, like the hammer that pulls back, or a missile silo, or a tank. A tank can shoot these projectiles. So does artillery. Firing platforms or mechanisms. Instruments of death, which starts with the intercontinental ballistic missiles. Let's go back to Joel. So how is the Lord trying to save the heathen and Gentiles, but yet he's telling them, how is he trying to save everybody if he's telling the heathen and Gentile nations to do this? Joel 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. So he's mustering them into the valley of Yehoshaphat, the place of decision and judgment. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither calls the mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be awakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. So this is a massive bloodshed, and symbolically being compared to a wine press crushing grapes. Judgment, because their blood are going to be spilled upon the earth. They're going to be beat to dust or powder. Verse 12 again. Let the heathen be awakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Yehoshaphat, judgment, decision of Yahweh. And this is going into what? Nuclear destruction. Verse 15. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Zion. What makes the heavens and the earth shake? Let's bring up that picture again. Starting with intercontinental ballistic missiles, followed by other smaller projectiles that's going to ultimately destroy this place. So these are different launch platforms. This is called a multiple missile launch system, or MLRS, multiple launch rocket system. So these are different platforms, but they all are what? Projectiles, different shapes, sizes, forms, and functions. But only the arrows of the Lord are intercontinental, that are going to travel to the ends of the earth, according to the scriptures. Let's go back to Joel 3. So the Spirit of the Lord is going to be guiding these missiles and all these munitions to their targets. Joel 3, verse 16. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Zion. So shall ye know that I, the Lord. Joel 3, verse 17. So shall ye know that I am the Lord, your God, dwelling in Zion, and my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. So Jerusalem is not going to be defiled by the heathen and Gentile nations anymore, or the uncircumcised. Let's go to Isaiah. Let's read this again. Joel 3, verse 17. So shall ye know that I am the Lord, your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. Let's go to Isaiah 50, I think it's 52. Those are the heathen and Gentile nations. They're going to be beat to powder. Isaiah 52, verse 1. Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust. All right. Isaiah 52, verse 2. Shake thyself from the dust. Arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. So Israel is going to be lifted up out of the dust of the earth, out of slavery, out of confusion, out of captivity, out of affliction. Joel 3, verse 17. So shall ye know that I am the Lord, your power, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. So that holy mountain is the new government under Yahushua and the tabernacle of David. Close out here. Joel 3, verse 18. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk. Let's read it again. Joel 3, verse 18. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters, and a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. So the new government is going to bring forth righteousness. The laws, statutes, and commandments are going to govern all the heathen and Gentile nations. We're going to follow the word of the Most High, Yahweh, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through his son, Yahushua, that's going to occupy the throne of David. Yahushua Mashiach, our King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So the earth is going to be judged and governed in righteousness by the word. Verse 19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. So the Lord is going to have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel and set us back in the Holy Land to rule forever. I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwell in Zion. Cleansing our blood is recompense, judgment to the nations, revenge. That's what he means. I will cleanse their blood. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. So the land cannot be cleansed but by the blood of him that shed it. That's Numbers 35, verse 33. So this land has to be cleansed by fire, judgment, to balance the scales of equity. Let's read it again. Joel 3, verse 21. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord will. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. Let's go ahead and get that. Numbers 35. How can the land be cleansed? Numbers 35, verse 33. So shall ye not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defile the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So these Edomites shed the most blood on the earth, that ruled the nations in wickedness, and with a continual stroke through their military. Hopefully this lesson has been edifying. All praises to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushua, B'Hashem Rakakadash. Let the weak say, I am strong. See you on the next lesson, Lord willing. We got next, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharallah and Abad Babao. Shalom, Barakatham.